888-78. Call or log on.
Welcome to We Mean Business. I'm Steve Dorfman. I've been really excited about today's topic because I think that it's something that everybody can benefit from in business and in life. We're talking about speaking, and we're talking about how to sharpen your speakability. And nobody better to bring in than the expert, somebody who spent way more years on this side of the desk. In fact, you'll recognize her right away. It's Jan Fox, who spent about 3 decades in TV, about 20 of those years at WSA Channel 9 here locally. And Jan, it's just a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Look at you go here. This is great. You're on the good side here.
You are a 4-time Emmy Award winner. And today, you've parlayed everything that you've learned from working in television to into this speaking career that you now created for yourself and teaching others how to speak from the stage. And I love it. And you even wrote this book, Get Yourself on TV.
That's the most often asked question in my 30 years on TV. How do I get myself on TV? So
and look, it works.
Yeah, there you go. That's funny.
All right, so let's jump right in. You say that the number one way to grow your business is public speaking. I think a lot of people might not have ever put that together or be able to connect those dots. So help us connect that.
Yeah, they get afraid of it, actually, is what I've discovered. I'm going to go back to something you said. I started to say I worked on street corners for almost 30 years. So when I left there, when I decided to retire, I saw myself on my husband's new HD TV, and I looked like my great Aunt Marion, so I thought it was time to quit. And what happened is people kept asking me to coach them or to come speak. And I thought speaking would be finished when I left there. And it wasn't. So this business has sort of built itself, and it kind of rolls along by itself. I'm not sure how to market. Don't tell anybody that. But the only thing I do is speak or coach somebody to speak, and that person writes something on Facebook, and the next person says, can you help me do that too? So yes, I think the fastest way to grow your business, and my business is the perfect example of it, is to be speaking in front of groups. Here's why. You can do all the social media you want. I do it. It's great. I love it. It's almost like playing pin the tail on the donkey because you don't know exactly where it's going to hit. But if you have any kind of local coaching business, then I think the fastest way to grow it is to get yourself in front of potential clients. Because you know, you've got a meeting this week. You know when you go to that meeting, you're going to sit across from that CEO, and you will find some way to connect, and out of that connection grows your business. And so that's exactly what I do. I speak on street corners, and I get clients. I get coaching clients, and I also get other speaking gigs from doing that. And I've helped lots of people do that.
So here's the challenging side for a lot of folks, and Jerry Seinfeld jokes about this because he says that, if public speaking is our number one fear, that means the guy giving the eulogy would rather be in the box.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, how do we get past that initial fear if we have now come to this realization, as you say, that speaking is the number one way to grow our business? How do we get past that fear part?
Well, if I had known you were going to ask that question, I would have brought a baton. And I would have made you twirl a baton in front of all of these people. Or right now, I could make you do the foxtrot. If you can sing Fly Me to the Moon or something, I could show you how to do the foxtrot. And you would be your face is turning red already. So you would be completely and totally embarrassed. That's because I'm asking you to do something ridiculous in front of all of these people. But when you're asked to speak to a group, you're just doing nothing but sharing what you know. So I have what I call mind shift craziness to cure the jitters. It's crazy stuff. When you drive to your event, you get out of your car and you're in a nervous state. Well, I say go ahead and get nervous the whole way there. Just get nervous in that car. But when you step out of that car, physically slam that door and the jitters are in there and you put on your power pose.
I love that.
Now, Amy Cuddy talks about doing it this way. I say do it this way. Get those arms up in the air and the blood flows and all of a sudden you think you've got more confidence. All you have is more oxygen in your body, but it makes it come out like power in your soul. So then walk to the place where you're going to speak from that car in complete and total power with your on switch on. I've seen so many speakers come into a room, mess with their PowerPoint, do this, do that, get nervous, worry about this, and then they go, good morning. Today what we're going to talk about is da-da-da-da. And I think, wait, they just switched on to speaker mode. And what I say is you have a full range of potential. Here's scaredy cat over here. Here's full power over here. And so if you just live on the on side of your fullest potential, you walk into that room ready. And then the on switch isn't a jolt. It's just moving a couple steps forward to the group and embracing them. What I also say is you get in your speaker box. You know, you stand like this, 2 foot by 2 foot square, and you're all apart from this audience, and they're looking at you, and you're supposed to be the expert, and it breeds nervousness, that little speaker barrel you put yourself in. So as soon as you take a couple of steps out of that, and I never let my coachees stand behind the podium. I call that death by podium, death by lectern. But I say if you just take a couple of steps toward the audience and think about embracing them. Now, you're a dude, so I think embrace might be a funky word for a guy, but you bridge the distance between your speaker barrel and that audience. And all of a sudden, you see them leaning into you as you're embracing them. And that helps the nerves go away.
By the way, I have to tell you, I watched you talk about this very thing in your video on your homepage. And I felt it when you did it, watching you step out of that 2x2 box. I could feel the transition and really, and this idea.
Makes me feel so good.
I love the way you just described taking that. Be nervous on the way there,
Yeah.
and then when you slam that car door, slam the nervousness inside the car and leave it behind. I love that.
It's done, but also you have to put it in your step. You can't just walk in there in your usual at-rest, worried position. You have to walk in power mode to that room.
Let's talk about nervousness for a sec, because I watched one time Billy Joel's ex-wife, Katie Lee Joel, on Oprah, and Oprah could sense that she was nervous as soon as she sat down, and she said, oh, you seem nervous. What's going on? And Katie Lee Joel said, well, you know, I shouldn't be, because I got some really great advice from a friend of mine. My friend said, nervousness is selfish energy.
Aha.
I don't even have to go any further. You
all
get it.
about me.
Right.
And that's the #1 rule. When you're going to go speak to somebody, speak to a group, it's not about you. It's about the audience. If you have that nervous energy, it's a selfish hold to that belief that it's all about me. You leave you in the car, too, and bring in all your thoughts and worries and concerns about the audience in front of you and helping them do their best. And you don't have much room left for worry.
Isn't that why they asked you to take the stage, by the way, right? or asked you to present to them in a meeting? I mean,
that's exactly right. And you know what? In some of those meetings, people are paying to hear you. They want to hear what you have. And there's some studies, researchers, I want one of these jobs where you sit around and research what audiences do when people speak. I don't know who they are, but they say that audiences actually want the best for you. And if you go in believing that, they're there to support you in giving them what they need, not there to make your life miserable. We make our lives miserable standing in front of them.
What a great mindset walking into.
All of these things I'm telling you are mindset shifts.
Yeah.
The hardest kind. I'd like to give you an orange pill and say it all goes away.
Yeah.
But it really is a mindset shift.
You tend to tell a lot of stories when you speak and present. And you know, we've talked about storytelling in the past with several of our guests in all walks of business. But tell me why, is that something you just naturally do, or you do it because you know it's important to include stories when you present?
I do it, #1, because Tom Fox resides in my body. That's my old daddy preacher.
Okay.
And he would preach on street corners, and he had a story for everybody. A certain person would walk up or walk into his church, and he knew that person and had a story about that person. So they come naturally to me. But here's what I know. If you listen to me speak, and I do my little gig, at the end of that, I could ask you what you remember, and you would remember my story about Dolly Parton. You remember the story about how my granddaughter said a bad word. You would remember the story about the guy who spoke, moving his arms like a chicken. I had to practice to do that. And you would remember those stories, and what's interesting to me is you would remember the points based on just remembering those characters. So then if I asked you to name 3 points from my talk, you would go, let's see, So I believe that there is a huge retainability boost when your point comes first in the form of a story.
Love it.
I've seen it happen over and over and over again.
So have I. So you've already given a tip or two on how someone could relax before giving a talk or even walking into a presentation. What's something else that one could do to just get into that state of relaxation and be their authentic, natural self?
Know your stuff. It sounds so simple. But people ask me to do things like productivity or employee engagement. Now, maybe I could
They ask you to
stretch it
present on
that.
these topics.
Yeah, Jan, can you talk about time management? To which I laugh. I've got one thing I know how to do. I just know how to talk. That's all I got. I know how to talk, and I know how to teach people to talk. So when I left Channel 9, I said to my husband, Lordy, I have no skills. What am I going to do? I need another job. I want a retirement job. And so I took a job with the golf company. Well, sure enough, they were asking me to teach them to speak, fixing their PowerPoints, working with the sales team. And I said to my husband, and people kept asking me about speaking and coaching, and they were wanting to give me money. And my husband said, well, why don't you just call a company Fox Talks, because it's what you do. You talk too much and you teach people to talk. So my company is called Fox Talks. So I stay in my niche. I stay in, unfortunately, it's a topic niche. That's harder to deal with than an industry niche. But that's what I know. And where did I learn it? On street corners. I had to talk to the victims of violence. I got to go visit the perpetrators of the violence in jail. I talked to the lawyers, very well-trained lawyers. I talked to judges who would speak to me. So I had a range of people on street corners that I had to sell on the idea of speaking to me.
Great segue.
Presidents and movie stars.
Great segue. You say that if you can't sell if you can't speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. You think about it. You love your product, but you're trying to memorize this long script, and you get nervous when you go to make that presentation. They don't see as much of the presentation as you want them to see, because what they see is your hands clasped like this and the knuckles are turning white, or they see the sweat. So I think that what I say is you can't sell if you can't speak, you can't persuade if you can't present, and you definitely can't motivate if you can't communicate. I think we all right now are answering the big question, thank you to Simon Sinek and all of his coaches around the world, the big why. Why do we do what we do? Well, I can't sell you on my purpose. I can't sell you on my mission statement unless I'm saying that to you as if it comes out of me from my toes. Words don't matter. It's what the rest of us looks like, sounds like, and feels like to you when you're hearing it. So I say you can't sell if you can't speak. And I say this too. If you speak better, you're guaranteed to sell more. And I've helped several sales teams, and the testimonials come, oh, yeah, we sold a lot more after blah, blah, blah.
On the topic of uncovering your why,
Okay.
have you uncovered your why?
I got my why. My why is easy.
Yeah.
My purpose is to help you speak your purpose so your message gets out into the world, and I get to say I had a hand in that. It's when, if I help somebody who's been abused, or if I help somebody who was given away by her parents to marry somebody, if I help a CEO tell why he really loves his company from the heart, if I help any one of those people and many others tell their stories or speak about their lives or speak about their purpose, people can follow. How you speak about your purpose determines how people will follow. How you speak about change in your business determines how people will accept that change. I've just seen it over and over and over and over again.
Very good. What are the mistakes that even the pros tend to make?
That they know too much and try to cram it all in a short period of time, and then we miss the points, or that they tell us too much on. I have these retainability rungs, Jan's retainability rungs. I know that's not a word, Mr. Dorfman, but I use it anyway, okay? So the least retainability is if you're speaking to somebody just to inform them. You go up a rung if you're trying to instruct them, and you actually give them something to do as you're teaching them. It goes up a notch if you're trying to invite them to consider something important, but it better be phenomenally important, or they won't listen to you the next time. And then the next rung is inspire, and that's where it gets good. But most speakers, even the really good ones, focus on the informing and the instructing and leave out the part that inspires me to do my best work.
I also caught the invite in there. Yeah. Okay, so the 4 I's. Or is it 3?
Well, it's 4 I's. Yes, it's 4 I's, but I had to put a P and a C on the end, and that's persuasion, how to persuade. And then after you inspire them, then you persuade them. And then the top rung is call to action, because you're asking them to do something.
All right.
So,
well, we'll try to touch on all these things after the break. We're going to take a break. And I also want to ask you, why it is that so many folks tend to hide behind that podium or lectern, and how they can get the courage to come out from behind.
oh, I've got a trick for that.
All right. You're watching We Mean Business. I'm here today with Jan Fox of Fox Talks. We'll be back in seconds.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back to We Mean Business. I'm Steve Dorfman, and today I'm joined by Jan Fox of Fox Talks, local celebrity, 4-time Emmy winner from WSA Channel 9 for many, many years. And we're talking about how to sharpen your speakability. So before the break, I asked you about this thing about the podium or the lectern. So many folks tend to hide behind it. And even if it's a really great talk that they're giving. I mean, I've seen people like Oprah Winfrey and Steve Jobs talk from behind a podium, but and maybe they can get away with it. But talk to me about, or talk to our viewers about this whole
when you're
thing.
as big as Oprah Winfrey and Steve Jobs, you can stand behind your podium, but I'm not going to mess with you.
Probably sit behind your steering wheel
Yeah,
of your car.
exactly. In your pajamas. But here's the deal. If I don't know if you can see my hands, Miss Melissa, but if you have a podium, you have this stability. Your legs are one leg of the stool. Here's the other one. Here's the other one.
Ooh.
And so you feel safe and secure. But here's what you do. You cut off a huge percentage of your likability factor by not letting us see all of you. And here's what I mean by that. If I stood up right now, I would be able to use my hands and my feet to tell you a piece of my life story. And it was, I came from the corner of Montgomery and Locust Streets in Shelbyville, Indiana. It was between a cornfield and a soybean field. And some big TV host in the sky just laid a path for me, and all I did was walk it. I had no what color is your parachute. I had no such thing as a career coach. I just walked what was there, and as my old daddy would say, well, just tweak something. So I would tweak a little bit this way, tweak a little bit this way, and I get to the end, and here I'll be 69 in another month. My granddaughter said, Grammy Jan, you're only 2 away from 70. She's not calling me on my 69th birthday, okay? But I'm standing at the end of a career, and I can stand there with complete and total awe and gratitude of the things that have been dropped in my lap that I never, ever, ever could have imagined. Now, I told you that story because I meant it. But watch this. Well, I grew up on the corner of Montgomery and Locust Streets in Shelbyville, Indiana, and I think somebody must have laid a path for me, and I just walked it, and so now at the end I can stand here. I can't even do it. I'm doing this. Stand in gratitude and awe. So do you feel the difference?
Of course, yeah. Your body language is not even there anymore.
No, it's not there. And that's, I interviewed a very, very important woman. I can't tell you her business or you'd know exactly who she is. She's one of only one woman in the world who does what she does.
Okay.
And so I trained her to speak off the cuff and to just answer questions off the cuff because she was going to have lots of interviews. But I also trained her to speak from a few key words and not take a script. And I trained her to use all of her body. And she is at her big inauguration thing, and she goes right behind the podium, and she's about a foot taller than the podium, and she has on a white hat, and all you see is this. And she's reading her script.
Oh, no.
And it was on television. I was so sad for her. Well, so later, she writes me a handwritten note, beautiful note, and she said, okay, I've done it. I've learned to speak off the cuff, out from behind the lectern, and I'm getting recognized for it. And I'm telling you, that was just like, that was gold to me. That this woman who's very, very powerful in a powerful position can now have a bigger impact on her audience, which is also very important. So,
you spoke a moment ago about these tweaks that your dad would recommend. You just need to tweak this way or that way. This is something that you talk a lot about, what you call micro actions or speak tweaks. And I get them. I see them on Facebook. And they're all so valuable. They're really quick and just little nuggets, but really powerful. Talk to us about the effectiveness of these little tweaks.
well, at the very beginning, I called my talks speak tweaks, micro acts to maximize your impact. And I was told by a few people in the business, in the speaking business and in business, that no corporation, no company is going to be drawn to something that sounds so small. So I had to not call my major talks that anymore, but it's still part of the system I use to get people to speak better. So it's buried in there. But here's what I think. My neighbor, Jerusha, said to me, Foxy, we're going to go walking every day. I said, great. So nothing happens. Nothing happens. 2 or 3 days go by, nothing happens.
You didn't go walking.
We didn't go walking. She didn't call. We didn't make a date. And so finally I see her in the yard. I say, what's the deal, Jerusha? She said, oh, I need new sneakers. Now, what would be your response to that?
Go buy some new sneakers. Order them online. They'll be here tomorrow.
Go buy. I knew she wouldn't walk in the house and do that. So I stepped back 3 steps, and I said, Jerusha, I want you to walk in the door, take the keys off the hook, hold them in your hand, walk out the back door, get in your car, and drive to RJ Sports and check out the sneakers. So she did that. She got sneakers, and now we're walking. But I told her, don't put them on. Just put them by the front door. And she said, why? I said, you'll see. Just get them and put them by the front door. Well, that gave her some, what's that about? So she had to do it. And 2 days later, she calls, and she said, okay, they called my name. Let's go walking. But I just feel like, and that's just a silly example, but I feel like that people want to make changes. They want to do things differently. And the number one reason that they can't is they can't see a starting point. They're overwhelmed.
Yes.
So I wanted to take the overwhelm out of public speaking and just give them a few things that they could do in their bodies, with their hands, with their words, with their eyes, that would immediately give them a greater impact. But now I might be known as a fraud in some circles.
Why is that?
And here's why. Because really good coaches coach from the inside out. They help you come to your own decisions about what might work. They help you figure out the insights that you have. Well, when I have people come to me in a hurry because they've got a TEDx talk and they've waited till the last minute, I don't have time to get their guts out. You know what I'm saying? So I sometimes say, well, just try your hands this way and see if that doesn't open up some power for you. So then they do it, and they feel the power that comes from not doing this anymore. Or if I say, let me tell you what eye contact means. It means looking at the black eyeball dots at the person in front of you instead of you got to have eye contact. So they do these things, and then they feel them. So I don't want to, I'm kind of outside-in-ish sometimes. If I have a lot more time, I go inside out. But there are a lot of people who make fun of speaker coaches who say, have speaker hands. Do your speaker hands. You
know, the outside-in approach actually has me think of the expression "fake it till you make it," which I've never been a fan of that expression. But in this case, it actually applies, and it works. Because like you said, if somebody does this and they can feel that power, then guess what? If this wasn't natural, you made them fake it, but they felt it.
Think about this. I know you haven't been to a bar in a long time, but back in the day, if you, and I haven't either, trust me, but if you go to a bar, if you're talking to a friend at a party, your hands are doing this. You're saying, oh, you should see my little girl. She's the cutest thing. Well, now she's already this tall. You do that. Nobody says you should see my little girl. She's really cute. She's already this tall. We use our hands.
So you're saying we should drink before we talk?
No. But it's a natural thing to do. What's unnatural is that we stand like this and try to make our messages standing without using our hands. So all I'm trying to say is let's get back. Instead of acting, let's get back to your natural self, and now
Got it.
let's see how far down the potential continuum we can drag that.
You also say that what you give your audience, they give you back. How do you
Without
mean?
Without a doubt. If I'm standing in front of a group and I'm talking about talking and I'm talking about it like I'm tired, or there's a look, now this is a little bit of a drag, but you have to do that. When I come in full passion, which I have about, can you tell I have a little bit about this?
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. When I come in with my passion on my sleeve and I'm speaking to them out of pure love for wanting them to get what I'm saying because it will be good for them, then they respond with that. Now here's what happens. You get in front of an audience and they're a little rough around the edges and you say, oh, this is a tight audience, they're not responding. Do you know what normal speakers do? They back up and they get tighter because, well, I'm doing too much and they're not. Me, I jump right out. As soon as I see that happening, I'm making them do something, I'm asking a question, I'm out near them.
Now I have to ask you, have you ever presented to a room full of introverts? Maybe it was, an industry where that, tends to be the norm, and how did you handle that?
Well, let me just say a word about that.
Okay.
I don't understand why this happens, but I've worked in several IT companies. And sometimes I work with the top management and the sales teams, but often I'm working with engineers or analysts who also have to go on a sales call to explain something, but can't. They don't have the skills to explain it to a customer who doesn't understand the algorithms. So I get those people. I just had to go to Delaware. I didn't have to go. I went to Delaware, and I had 200 financial planners. Now, some of them love the planning aspect. They know it inside and out. They don't like necessarily talking to people, and they don't necessarily see the value of talking to a group of people to sell their businesses. So yes, I've had them, and I actually love it, because there you can see a big turnaround from, I hate this, I don't want to do this, to, hey, I'm okay at this. You see it very quickly. If I get somebody who's really pretty polished, I might work really hard to get them to bring more passion to their talk, and you see it, but it's not quite as big a difference as the introvert who says, I can't do this. I love that.
All right. We just have less than 2 minutes left, so I want to ask you, I want to make sure I got this question. How can we best initiate a relationship with our audience after having given the talk? How do we keep that relationship going, stay engaged, and stay on the radar of that audience?
Well, let me ask you a question. When you get to the end of this show, are you going to tease what your next show is?
No, we don't do that.
You don't do that? Oh, come on. You don't say coming up. Stay tuned. You don't do that?
No.
Okay. Well, you should. All right.
Okay.
But that's what I do. I leave them with saying, now there's more, or we have, the next time we get together, we can do this. Or here's what I want you to do. I told this to a very famous think tank downtown, 15 trainers in the room. I said, what I want you to do is shoot me an email in 2 weeks and tell me how this is going for you. And if you don't shoot me one, I'm going to be shooting you one to ask you. So I want to know how you've integrated this into your work.
All right, last question in 30 seconds or less, PowerPoint. Do's and don'ts.
Oh, I trained a woman for an hour and a half this morning who had a big talk, scared to death, couldn't do it. And I said to her, this is a secret. I don't want people to hear this. But if you make a PowerPoint with all visuals, and you make a visual for every point you want to make, the audience remembers those points. 68% more retainability with the picture than just with words. Yes. So put pictures, and then guess what? When you can't remember where you are, click, and the picture tells you what to say. Yeah. So the PowerPoint becomes not your crutch, but your assistance in delivering a long talk without notes, without being behind a podium.
Yes, absolutely.
So I love PowerPoint. But if you put a bunch of words on it with bullets, I hate PowerPoint. That's death by PowerPoint.
Yes.
What I do is come to life by PowerPoint.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you. Great fun.
Yes. So to learn more about Jan Fox, you can visit wemeanbiz.tv. I'm Steve Dorfman. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.